This is Golf with Jay Delsing. A two-time All-American at UCLA. Competed in nearly 700 PGA Tour events, 7 professional wins to his credit. Over 30 years of professional golf experience. A member of the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame and the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. This is Golf with Jay Delsing. It's time to tee it up. News from the world of golf. We're on the range with Jay and Dan.
Welcome into Golf with Jay Delsing, and with Jay Delsing, I'm Dan McLaughlin. We do this every week. It's called Golf with Jay Delsing, and our guest coming up this week will be Will Salisbury, who has co-authored a new book just in time for Father's Day, just in time for the Masters. So we'll visit with Will Salisbury coming up in our second segment. He'll be in studio. But first, always great to be with you, Jay Delsing, and away we go.
Danny, Mac, good morning. Love doing the show with you. We got a lot to unpack today, just like every week. Let's do it.
Rory McIlroy's playoff victory at the Players' Championship. The last 6 years now, a player in the top 10 of the world golf rankings has won. What was your impression of Rory last weekend?
Well, he looked really good. I got to tell you, I was really impressed with J.J. Spaun. Man, that golf course lends itself, Danny, to some just odd things. You know, just odd things happen. I have gone over this probably half a dozen times, just reading as much stuff as I can in the playoffs. So you're there. So for those that didn't get to watch, Rory and J.J. Spaun are tied after regulation, and because of the long weather delay they had last Sunday, they were not able to finish. So they had to come back Monday morning. They come back Monday morning. There's a cold 15 to 20 mile an hour breeze blowing, and they're teeing off. The playoff starts at 9 a.m. Eastern time, so it's 8 o'clock St. Louis time. So, Danny, you know, that ball, it's cold. It's in the 50s with wind chill. That ball is not going anywhere. J.J. Spaun winds up hitting his second shot in the water his tee shot in the water on 17 after Rory has safely found land. And it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, J.J. Spaun is talking about it's a 130-yard shot. He hit all these 8 irons on his track, man, straight into the wind. Every nice one that he flushed went 128 yards. He gets there in the playoff, Danny, and hits this floaty higher shot that he thinks might be a little short and goes over in the water.
It was really interesting. He was peeking into the bag of Rory McIlroy, so the cameras caught that. How often on the PGA Tour do you do that? Because when you're playing with your buddies on the weekend, you say, well, what'd you hit?
Yeah, right.
And so you're not going to do that on the PGA Tour.
No, that's actually a breach of the rules. You
and
can't
I was
ask,
wondering
but you can look. And Danny, I would say I would look when I played, I would look 75, 80% of the time. But it was just almost out of habit because Rory is at least a club, maybe 2 clubs longer than J.J. Spaun, and really probably longer than most of the guys on the PGA Tour. So, but I've read this multiple times from multiple sources. J.J. Spaun said he looked at it, but he said it didn't. I knew I was hitting an 8 iron. It was a perfect 8 iron. I had prepared for this. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I love the swing that I put on it. It just, and Rory said in a publication that I read also, Danny, he goes, I couldn't believe that JJ hit his ball so high into the wind, and it still went that far. He said it didn't make any sense to him either.
How do you bounce back? If you're J.J. Spaun, you're there, you could win the Players' Championship. You played so well the day before. You almost won it with a putt. He came up about 2 inches short on 18. It's interesting how guys bounce back or they don't bounce back from something like that.
It'll be interesting. You know, he's only won one other time on the PGA Tour, but Danny, man, has he played well this 2025 campaign. And there's over 2 million reasson from that week alone that's going to soothe some of his pain.
You go back and think about every shot, don't you?
You do. I mean, when you go, I mean, and that's the maddening part about it. Over 72 holes. One shot. I mean, it's going to be a bounce where your ball doesn't bounce in the fairway and you go in the rough and you wind up not being able to go to par 5 in 2 and you lay it up and make a par instead of having it stay in the fairway, knocking it on the green and make an eagle, or, it could even be 2-shot swing with one bounce.
Yeah.
It's tough. You almost really can't.
Do you like the idea of a 3-hole playoff? I heard some people say, I don't like that. You should just go head-to-head, hole by hole. You see in some tournaments like the U.S. Open, you go back in a playoff and you play all 18.
Yeah.
It's interesting how some guys look at it, and ladies, how they look at how you do a playoff. What was your preference?
I think the reason they do that is because of the 3 holes that they play. The 16th hole at the TPC is the easiest ranked hole on the entire golf course. But there's a lot of water on there. Things can happen. 17 is a disaster waiting to happen, and 18 is one of the most difficult holes you play on the PGA Tour all year long. So I think it's to showcase more of that event and that golf course. And so that makes sense to me. I kind of like just a sudden death. Let's go. Let's get this thing.
That's what I prefer.
Yeah, like let's settle this.
Yeah.
I mean, for the sponsors, Danny, for the patrons, for the volunteers, we want to try to end this thing as quickly as possible. We want the best player to win, and they will. But, man, coming back the next morning, Danny, you got to get scorers out there. You got to get volunteers out there. Spectators are going to come back. You're going to have media come back. It's a lot when you have to come back and do a Monday finish.
Okay, as you mentioned, it was cold.
Yes.
It was breezy, beyond breezy.
Yeah.
The wind was really blowing, and I'm talking about in the playoff. And you mentioned how, and you've said this a million times, when it's cold, the ball is not going to travel.
Yeah.
However, on the first drive by Rory McIlroy on 16, Jay, he hits it 336 yards. 336.
Now, that was helping wind.
Yeah.
But you're right. The ball does. Danny, he's a freak with that driver. And here's what says it all. J.J. Spawn just makes triple bogey. Rory makes bogey on 17, and Rory won 16 with a birdie. So he was one shot up going to 17. Now he's leading by 3. Danny, he could have hit a wedge off of 18.
Exactly. I don't understand why he did that.
What club does he hit?
Driver.
It's his best club in his bag.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
good point.
It's the best club in his bag. It's the club that he has. He's got more confidence.
That's a great point. Yeah,
with that driver. And so he's like, I'm sinking or swimming with this thing, and he put it out to the right, which is so predictable. Three strokes up, I don't know what I would have done there. I would not hit driver, for sure, I never hit driver on there unless I had to, and it was because it was playing so long. I always hit 3-wood and just hit it out at those bushes and try to hook it a little bit.
I wonder if you're J.J. Spawn, how intimidating that is. Now, Tiger intimidated in the game of golf.
Yeah.
And people say, well, how do you get intimidated in the game of golf? It's
do.
not like football or basketball or a guy in baseball that's throwing 100 miles an hour. That's intimidating.
Right.
But you can have that, though, in the game of golf.
Oh, 100%. Roy's going to stand up there and drive it, 45 yards past J.J. Spawn. Of course he's going to be intimidated. I remember, Danny, when I was doing TV for PGA Tour Live, we were down in Austin, and we were doing the Dell match play. And in the quarterfinals, Brian Harmon was playing Rory McIlroy. So I had that match. And it was awesome to sit there and watch. But Austin Country Club is a short, tricky little track. And so there's not a lot of holes that Rory can go ahead and exploit that driver on. For example, a year or two after, Rory drove it 3 feet from the hole on the 18th hole, 382 yards, drove it right on the green.
Wow. That's incredible.
But this day, Brian Harmon took him down. He beat him 5-3.
Right.
And I got to interview Brian Harmon after the round. And it was one of the first interviews and only interviews I ever got to do on the golf course. It was really fun because I said, Brian, going into this, you had to think, I'm going to be hitting first all day long coming into these par fours. Rory is that much longer than I am. And did you watch? Because it's intimidating to watch. He goes, it's incredibly intimidating. The guy is so good with his driver. He hits it high, he hits it long, he draws it, he fades it. He goes, I was just trying to position it out there so that I knew I had to put a lot of heat on him with his second shots. And because this golf course is the way it is, he wasn't able to hit driver all the time. So, but he's longer than I am he's 2 clubs longer than I am all the way through the bag. So I was hitting my iron shots. Brian Harmon just took apart the golf course, played his game, shot 4 under par, and sent Rory home after 14 holes.
You ready for my favorite guy now? Well, I can't say he's my favorite.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler is one of my favorites. Rory's one of my favorites. So, okay, I got the big names. But I'm going to give you a name that I think is going to win a major, and I think he's fun to watch.
I know who it is. He's left-handed.
Yes, he is.
Yep. Akshay Bhatia.
Yep, and he finished 2 shots back.
I love it. I got to tell you, Danny, he really, really struggled with his nerves on Sunday because he had it right there. He missed about a 4-foot putt. He 3-putted 16 for par. He knocked it on in 2 and missed a short birdie putt. He also had about a 7-footer on 18 that he didn't make, and it was right there. It was right there for him. And
why did you guess that I would have him? What are you in my mind here?
I'm with him too. I love this kid. I got to tell you, he's only 21 years old, but he's been a pro for 4 years already. Former number 1 amateur in the world. He decided to not go the university route, which is really crazy in today's world. I mean, not all the kids are graduating. In fact, very few of them are graduating. But Danny, they're coming from all across the world over here to one of our great universities, get a free ride, have a little fun in college, play some college golf, and then go turn pro. But nope, he's like, I'm going right out to it.
Are you concerned at all with Scotty Scheffler? And he showed frustration. He was throwing clubs. It looked like he was exhausted during this tournament. He hasn't won yet here in 2025. So are you concerned at all? He makes another cut. He finished top 20. So don't get me wrong. It's not like this guy is just hanging on. I mean, obviously he's the world number 1, but you're seeing some frustration more so than we've seen in a long time out of Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, I guess he really struggled with the putter at the Players. He was the first. He had the opportunity to be have a three-peat there, Danny, that's never ever been done before. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to make of it. I haven't read or followed up a lot breaking down his game. I was surprised as hell. We mentioned this last week as well. I was surprised as hell that he shot 76 the third round at Farmers, at Torrey Pines, and then finished his second with a 66. But Ludwig just went out and captured that tournament, took it by the throat and brought it on home. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe it's going to be Scotty at the Masters. I don't know. It's interesting.
I'm really curious what you think about this. So Colin Morikawa, they do that state of the game before the Players' Championship, and the week before at Bay Hill, he's in contention. Afterwards, he just misses out on winning the championship. He doesn't speak to the media. Does a player owe it to the media to speak afterwards, win or loss? Now, I can understand after a loss, I mean, you're devastated and you think you're going to win. It doesn't happen. You are great with the media, obviously. Do players, we kind of have a fixation on this, do players have to speak to the media? And I'll tell you where I'm at. I think you do.
What do you think?
Well, I think you do, because the media is going to help expose the game. Good, bad, and different. You're talking about the game. You're talking about the biggest players. You want to hear from Colin Morikawa. What happened out there? And as tough as it may be to answer those questions, you still have to show your face and kind of face the music. You're a professional. That's part of it. And I wonder where you stand on this.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp, Danny.
Yeah.
The way that I was raised, my dad was in professional sports, and I was raised that you go, and it's kind of like your duty. You owe it to the game. You owe it to these other folks that are kind of supporting the game, as you said, and exposing it, both the good and the bad. I mean, Morikawa, I think he took a beating from Rocco Mediate and from Brandel Chambly, and they both said, Mr. Palmer would have, and I agree with them. I think Arnold Palmer would have been really disappointed. I think Mr. Palmer would have said, hey, look, this is tough, but get in there and answer some questions. It doesn't take long, and do your thing. And I liked Morikawa's answer, Danny. He said, I feel good about what I did. I stuck around. I signed for everybody that was around. I just really didn't feel like talking about it. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't know where, the tour needs to have a policy. They really do. And I can tell you this, they don't. And they don't brief these guys, and they probably should. I mean, the crushingness of Henley's chip going in on, the third to last hole is tough. It's really tough. But that's the way she goes, man. It's you didn't do anything wrong. The guy won. You didn't lose. He won. I know you wanted to win. You didn't get first place, but he took it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to tip your cap.
And sometimes I think as fans, we need to realize that guys have bad days. Now, this is the final day, and you saw the chip in on 16. That's really tough to swallow because you feel like, okay, I'm in control of the tournament. I'm going to win the Arnold Palmer Invitational. It doesn't happen. But just even on day 1, day 2, day 3, walk into your favorite Starbucks. Sometimes, guys, we're human beings. They have bad days too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get you're disappointed. So what?
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the price you pay to do the job you do, and you're more than handsomely rewarded for that. My opinion is go in there. I mean, you don't have to be cheery. You can tell it like it is. We've seen some of those interviews. Remember, Tony, you probably interviewed Tony La Russa 1,000 times, and Tony wanted to stick a knife in your head,
right.
After a loss. And what's interesting, Danny, is I said, and Morikawa did say this, we had Tony on the show several times, and I said, hardest thing about your job, 100% is the media.
Dealing with the media.
He said, if everybody could give me an hour to just let me chew on it. Exactly. Morikawa said the same thing. If I could have had, 45 minutes to just unwind a little, the way the tournament unraveled, it killed me. It just broke my heart, and sometimes that's why we get some of the crazy interactions, Danny, which I think are kind of colorful.
For sure.
You know what I mean? I think they're kind of fun. I don't know if I'd think they're fun if
it was you.
If it was me.
Right.
But, sometimes you get a really dumb question at a time when you don't have a whole lot of tolerance. And you're kind of like, really, dude? You're asking me that question right now? And, things fly. Hey, I don't know. I think your point is spot on. They're human beings. They're human beings trying to do this thing at a high level. And for the most part, they do a really good job of it. When something goes a little haywire, hey, I think you need to stand up there and take a couple hits and then move on,
We'll have our charity spotlight coming up as well, which is a new addition to Golf with Jay Delsing. Also, Will Salisbury is going to be in studio. There is a new book. It's a great book on golf. You're not going to want to miss that. Will Salisbury is coming up next on Golf with Jay Delsing.
That was On the Range. Up next, we'll head to the front nine. You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
Darty Business Solutions is now CGI. Who is CGI, you ask? Well, CGI was founded in 1976 and is one of the largest IT and business consulting service firms in the world. And they have over 650 local employees here in St. Louis. CGI has over 150 business alliances to help bring our clients the best technology solutions while driving innovation and accelerating growth. Darty Business Solutions has founded the Daugherty Foundation, which Ron Daugherty has committed $1 million a year for community philanthropic efforts. CGI has generously agreed to match that $1 million. So stay tuned for some exciting community news from CGI and the Daugherty Foundation. Our dear friend, Senior Vice President John Worth, is part of the leadership team at CGI and is now responsible for their presence in our region. So Daugherty Business Solutions is now CGI, and our community will be better than ever.
This is Emma Corbett, Director of Player Development with Elevate Golf. You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
This is the Golf with Jay Delsing Charity Spotlight. It's brought to you by M&M Golf Car. Jay, we want to welcome them to the Golf with Jay Delsing show.
Yeah, Danny, absolutely. My dear friend and friend of the game of golf, friend of St. Louis, Russ Ludloff. He runs this company for the Miller family. The company is located originally in Mexico, Missouri, where the Millers live, but Russ runs it out in O'Fallon. He has been a friend of the game and a supporter of golf in many, many ways. And so this is just something interesting, Danny. You and I have talked so often about how many folks will come up to us and say, hey, I'm doing this charity golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Or Mike Leach came in and said, hey, can you help us out with the superintendents? And it turns out that we got them a really nice sponsorship out of the spot that we helped Mike with. And so we've created this spot so that we can highlight a charity each week. And then we've got this great company supporting the spot in M&M Golf Car. And these guys just are unbelievable. They specialize in the club car brand, and they have won awards, Danny, from Club Car nationally. 80% of all the parts from these club cars are U.S. They're 100% assembled down in one of our favorite places in the whole wide world, Augusta, Georgia. And so it's just a great fit that, because we want to highlight the community. We want to talk about the good stuff that's going on in a time where most everybody wants to focus on the other. So this is really going to be fun.
The spotlight this weekend shines on the first tee of Greater St. Louis.
And Danny, I was a part of bringing the first tee to St. Louis years and years ago, almost 20 years ago now. And I'm super proud to have a chapter here in St. Louis. And what the first tee does is they focus on these things they call the 9 core values. And Danny, this is really special because the first tee talks about integrity, honesty, sportsmanship, and the list goes on. And yes, they'd like to turn out a really good golfer. Yes, they're using the game of golf, but they're giving kids in the city a different opportunity. Here's golf. What is golf? Here's, oh my gosh, there's no referees. You call penalties on yourself. All of those things, they're using those examples to transfer over into your life and to try to help, the young boy or girl and our community at the same time.
The charity spotlight shines on firstteestlouis.org, firstteestlouis.org to find out how you can get involved and help kids as well. That has been the Golf with Jay Delsing charity spotlight, and it's brought to you by M&M Golf Car.
Help me welcome M&M Golf Carts to the Golf with Jay Delsing show. The Miller family has owned this business since 1978, and they are your local and authorized club car dealer. 80% of all of their parts are sourced in the United States and 100% assembled in Augusta, Georgia. Club Car is an iconic American brand. M&M Golf Cars will now be the presenting sponsor of the Golf with Jay Delsing Charity Spotlight. Remember their slogan, you are right on par in your M&M Golf Car. You can find out more at mmgolfcars.com. That's mmgolfcars.com.
Golf with Jay Delsing is presented by SSM Health and Rehabilitation, Whitmore Country Club, Car Shield. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
Are you driving an out-of-warranty car? It's only a matter of time before your out-of-warranty vehicle is in the shop costing you thousands of dollars. Auto repair costs are up nearly 20% from last year, which is 4 times the rate of inflation. If an unexpected breakdown happened today, would you be ready for that? Well, now you can be with a plan through Car Shield. Even if your car is just over 3 years old, it's still prone to expensive costs. Your car is more than just getting you from point A to point B. Traveling by car is a way of life. From picking up your kids to going to a new restaurant, cars are a daily essential. When you enroll in a car protection plan through Car Shield, you can look forward to the following. The price will never go up no matter how many claims you file, or no matter how high the mileage on your car increases. Car Shield offers protection plans that start as low as $100 per month. That's $100 per month. They have repair coverage for up to 5,000 different parts of your vehicle. Plus, when your car breaks down and you're stuck on the side of the road, you get 24/7 coast-to-coast roadside assistance. You also get complimentary towing and rental car options. CarShield has my back when my car breaks down, and they can have yours too. Call CarShield today at 800-465-6550 or visit carshield.com. It's CarShield, proud sponsor of the Golf with Jay Delsing show.
You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing, brought to you by CarShield. It features top guests, tips from a PGA Tour player, and the latest news and notes from around the world of golf. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
Golf with Jay Delsing continues, and Jay has a special surprise for us. And also in studio, it's Will Salisbury. So you're saying, okay, who's Will? What's the surprise? There's a new book out. It's called You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. That is written by Jay Delsing and his co-author, Will Salisbury. Will, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. This is momentous for me.
This is where all the magic happens, right in here. It's great for you to be here, and the fact that this book is actually a thing now it's pretty crazy. I want to thank you for encouraging me to do this and actually holding my hand every step of the way.
Oh, it was an amazing, fun journey. We drank. This is not a lie. I'm not making this up. Way too much iced tea.
Yeah.
While doing this,
a little bit of tequila
at the end when we were done.
Yeah.
That was the celebration.
Danny, some of the stories started getting better with another tequila.
I can imagine.
Like, hey, it wasn't Joe Blow. It was Jack Nicklaus, I think, that was playing with us.
Will, how'd you guys meet?
So through corporate life, I heard the show on the radio, and I looked up, just Jay online and said he did corporate events. And I thought, for some of our clients, this would be huge. And we met, and he was amazing with the clients. He started telling me some stories, one in particular, which we can talk about. And then I was like, I got to do a book with this guy. I said that in the back of my mind. I didn't bring it up right then because I had to slow play him.
But you have written before. I mean, this isn't just something where you said, well, I met this guy, I want to write a book. I mean, you have a history in doing this.
Yeah, so I've written sports since probably 2014. I've been on a hiatus lately just because of work and having a new kid. And yeah, so I've ghostwritten another book on artificial intelligence. Not as fun as this.
Yeah.
But
might be a tiny bit more important and a little more critical in everyday life, a little AI, but
yeah, so yeah, a ton of sports writing, just a huge sports fan. Born and raised in St. Louis, and
getting to sit here for the guy that's won 4 Emmys and the voice of the Cardinals for 25 years.
This isn't about me. This is about you guys.
I know, right?
So what did you always want to do a book, or was this something that just kind of came about?
No, I really didn't. And when Will first said, man, you should write a book, and I was like, yeah, have another one. We'll just like, what are you talking about? And you were serious. And
yeah,
I'm not exactly sure how many times you asked me, but I just couldn't get my hands around why we do this, like this. The stories are fun, but I figured they're really kind of only fun for me because, I felt the overriding theme of the book, Danny, is that how did I get here? You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, why am I in this moment right now? Because it was almost like you couldn't have dropped a more awkward, clueless person in a situation like I was thrown in, especially I don't know which ones stories you want to talk about.
I'll get to those in just a minute. But let's get the background of the book and why you guys did it. I mean, so why did you do it? Again, so you're saying how did I get here? But did you ever think I need to write a book? I got all these stories. They just need to come out and put them on paper.
Not really. I did know I had a lot of stories, but I thought almost every golfer has a lot of stories. I mean, Danny, when you do something for 25, 30 years, things happen, and you're like, you couldn't script that if you
No.
tried, like, how am I?
He's like, I
standing?
don't know if I have enough for a book. And then I get a text message like, did I tell you at the time I almost got in a fist fight at Glen Abbey? I'm like, nope, but that's going to be a chapter.
But Danny, you were also very instrumental in talking about it, because I'm like, Danny, do you think I had a? And you were like, your kids, and that's when I started thinking about that, and maybe my grandchildren and things like that, because I missed a lot of the girls' lives, and so it was really super fun. About a week or so ago, I sent a book to each one of the girls, and we had this little opening party. I said, don't open this thing I'm sending you. We're all going to get online. We get on a Zoom call, which my kids are on Zoom calls all day. They're like, Dad, we'd rather not be on a Zoom. I go, I promise I won't keep you long. So we all opened it, and they were like, Dad, you wrote a book? And I'm like, I know, isn't that crazy?
And what was your reaction?
It was very positive. I wasn't really sure what they would think. And I said, there's so many fun stories in here. And a lot of the reason that, you can't be in two places at one time. And so this was some of the reason why I wasn't home as much as I would have liked to have been.
How about for you, Will, in trying to dissect what you wanted to do with the book? So you say, okay, I want to do a book, but then all of a sudden you got to have a little, it's like a sculpture, right? You got the clay and you got to mold it, and then you got to get to the points that you want. So how did that all come about? So
when I decided I wanted to try to get Jay to do this, I wanted it to be a non-linear sports biography. We've all read them where it's, ex-athlete was born in 1945, here's his entire life year by year, and it's over. And those are fine, but it's not as interesting or as fun. So I was like, I want to turn this into, we get a ton of stories. They're non-linear. They jump around in his life. So he tells these stories, and then he talks his life around that. So if you're talking about playing in the FedEx St. Jude in 1993, that's great. He sets the course record, but then what's going on in your life around that time? And then the next chapter might be about a tournament in 1987, and he talks about his life then. So it goes back and forth. It's a little more interesting to base it around the stories, not necessarily your life. So that was the way I wanted it to work out. And luckily for me, there's an endless amount of stories, as you know.
How do you figure out what stays in the book and what hits the cutting room floor?
That was a collaborative process.
There's a couple things that popped to mind straight away. I'm like, we probably shouldn't tell.
He tells me a story that I just see this look in his eyes. He's like, we should leave that one out. I'm
Let's not do that.
We should
good idea. Yeah. There's certain things that don't need to be repeated.
How long have you been working on the book?
So we started doing our sessions in October of 23, and it took us till May to finish writing the first draft, and then it's finding a publisher, going back and forth, and that took months and months, and it's finally out, and I'm glad we took our time and were diligent. You are going to love this book.
You mentioned sessions. Hold on, Jay. So what goes into a session? So Jay shows up at your house, vice versa. You guys meet at a bar, restaurant, then what happens?
So we meet at the palatial Delsing Estates, and me, Jay, and Cooper.
Well, Cooper's a part of the book.
Oh, Cooper is your dog.
In every session. So I just set up, my computer. We'd record. I'd ask him questions. He'd tell me, I want to tell you a story about this. And then that session, I just prompt him. You said, John Daly talked to you about spending $75,000 a month in alimony. And you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
And then he would just go off. So that's how each of them worked. And we probably did 10 of those.
Yeah.
It was, just a blast.
Sessions for you, were they fun?
They were kind of trips down memory lane. And,
That's what I mean.
And then, you reach a certain point, it's got to be age related, I guess. But I would ask you the same question, where you start thinking about some of your experiences and going, gosh, that's way more, maybe interesting or more or cooler than I thought it would be. But when you're a young guy and you're trying to figure out what you're doing out there, it just kind of hits you, and you're like, well, whatever. I mean, Danny, we were interviewing Davis Love a while back, and he was saying, that first time you play with like this really big name, it's like such a learning experience because you're glued to everything they say to you, and you're with them 4 or 5 hours on the golf course, and it's like it's gold.
Did you write down things when you didn't have your sessions and all of a sudden you're daydreaming and something came to mind? Did you write that down and say, hey, I need to get this in the book?
Well, Will said, how many stories do you have? And I'm like, gosh, I don't know. I don't think I have that many. I think it went something like this. Well, you first came over, we did, maybe 1 or 2 chapters, and then you said, why don't you give this some thought? Like, why don't you? And then I came back to you with like
so many
15
stories.
like 15 or 20 other options.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, wow. And then we tried to choose what we thought was best or most appropriate out of that group, but it turned out to be way more than we even filled the book with.
We're going to get into the stories in a moment, but what did you learn about Jay just doing this book? What did you
Keep
learn
it clean,
about him?
Will. This is a family show.
If you listen to this show, whichever one who's listening does, he's a fantastic storyteller, engaging, and the one thing when I follow sports or any sort of topic, enthusiasm is the one thing that keeps me glued to your content. And Jay is the most enthusiastic
Yes, he is.
ambassador of the game of golf. He wants, and it's genuine, every human being he meets to love the game of golf, to play it and get something from it.
I think we should take a quick moment and let's talk about your new swingers that you have that showed up at your front door one day.
My daughter calls my golf clubs my swingers. She's
Nice.
4.5. She said, "Get your swingers, Dad." So Jay really wanted to play. I'm like, I don't have clubs. I can borrow them. He's like, hold on.
You're a hoop guy. You're an
Yeah.
athlete. Yeah.
I played basketball and softball my whole life. So I just get home one day and there's a new set of Strata golf clubs. And he's apologizing. These aren't the best. These aren't the best. I'm like, what does? I wouldn't know. He's like, can I say hell?
Yeah.
Beat the hell out of these for 4 or 5 years. Then we'll get you some good clubs. So
Well, I
yeah.
get a text and it's like, oh gosh, my daughter, she loves it. She's calling, Dad, let's go outside and get your swingers out.
The book is called You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. The foreword by Jack Nicklaus, co-authored with Will Salisbury. Jay, I have talked to you a bunch about the book. You in a way, get kind of uncomfortable with it, don't you?
I do. It makes me emotional now. I don't know how some of these things happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you think about my UCLA experience and part of my scholarship, which was mandatory for me to go to college, I had to have a full scholarship doing something or else I wasn't going.
Mandatory from your parents.
Right. I mean, that's just the way it was. We just didn't have any money. And I wind up living in probably, this is 1979, I'm living in at least, the house is for sale right now for $31 million. It's on the 9th tee at Bel Air Country Club. It's Lana Turner's old home, and I lived in that for 4 years. But you got to, like, part of the book is my parents dropped me off at the curb at Lambert. I've got my golf clubs on my shoulder. I got a little bag, and that's everything I own. And I'm going on TWA, and I'm flying out to school. And I don't know, you guys have flown into LAX before. It's a kind of marginally terrifying airport.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there are so many different nationalities running around, so many different languages. It's just disconcerting a little bit. I don't know one person in LA.
Yeah.
I don't know one person on the golf team. I had met Tom Pernice once before because he was from Kansas City. That was it. And some stranger picks me up at LAX and drops me off at this mansion, and the woman, Mrs. McCulloch, she's not even home. He hands me my key and says, "This is where you're staying." I'm like, what are we doing?
So you get emotional over the book.
I do. I get emotional over the book because it's just like Corey Pavin was the NCAA College Player of the Year my senior year in high school, and he's in Sproul Hall. That's the dorm. And I'm over here in Lana Turner's old house.
Pretty good.
I have 3 dogs. I got,
We'll get into some of those stories in just a moment. Will, as we wrap up this segment, we'll head to a commercial break. What do you hope that people get out of the book?
Just they're going to get to know Jay, and anyone you ask if you know Jay Delsing, you love Jay Delsing. I've told everyone you're going to laugh through the first 17 chapters. Chapter 18 is going to make you cry, but you are absolutely going to love this book and just learn to love golf and all the stories around it that you will never, ever hear anywhere else.
Jay, how about for you? What do you hope people get out of the book?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think more for me is the appreciation of what golf does. I know I'm on my back 9 here somewhere along the line. Hopefully I'm on hole 10. I don't know. But the thing is, golf has provided everything for me. And Danny, we talk about this all the time on the show, where we call it a societal powerhouse because it raises your golf tournament. The special needs tournament that you've run for almost 25 years raises $500,000 a year for these for these sick kids. We could have a pickup basketball game. We could have a softball game. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work the same way. And so forget about the fact that the PGA Tour donates more money to charity every year than Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, and NHL combined. In our community here in St. Louis, every single Monday, there's tournaments for families, for children's hospitals, for boys and girls clubs, you name it. I mean, Danny, the Stiefel Charity Classic, which you guys are graciously involved in, almost $4 million after 4 years for the North County area. I mean, I know you're as proud of that as I am.
Absolutely. So you want people to understand that you just feel lucky.
Yeah, in the game. But this is the game. This happened to me. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You can set a dream and you can actually attain it. And it's staggering. But I used to tell the girls when they were, getting really good at volleyball and getting scholarships and things like this, I was like, you guys, some little girl is going to be the outside hitter for the national team. She's probably not very little, but she, or the setter. I mean, that can happen. So you got to aim for the top.
Again, the book, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. The foreword by Jack Nicklaus. We're going to get into that in just a moment. Co-authored with Will Salisbury and Jay Delsing. You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
That was the front nine. Up next, we'll make the turn. You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing, presented by CarShield.
You've heard me talking about the APT this year, but I want to help break down what this tour is all about. Firstly, it's the Amateurs Players Tour. I was lucky and privileged to have played golf on the PGA Tour, golf's highest level, so I know what it's like to have a real strong and fair competition. For amateur golf, this is absolutely the closest thing to PGA Tour style golf in terms of fairness of handicaps and the competition. Secondly, APT is the largest amateur tour in the country. In just over 6 years, Matt Minder and his team have over 7,000 members with over 44 local chapters spread across the country. The Amateur Players Tour runs over 800 tournaments a year. 800! That number alone tells you that they are doing something right. They play some premium golf courses around the country like Paynes Valley, Kiowa Island Ocean Course, and Torrey Pines South, and many more. Go to amateurplayerstour.com and find out for yourself. That's amateurplayerstour.com.
This is Dan Politis, PGA Golf Professional, and you are listening to Golf with Jay Delsing and Danny Mack. I listen every week.
When you're in the market for a new car, there's only one place that I go, and that's Dean Team Volkswagen of Kirkwood. Please call Colin Byrne over there. He's fantastic. His number is 314-966-0303. The Dean Team Volkswagen of Kirkwood will treat you like your family. Not sure you want to buy a car? The Dean Team Volkswagen has the area's largest selection of pre-owned vehicles for lease or purchase. Colin found my Yukon that I'm driving today, and I love it. It's the best vehicle I've ever driven. My daughter Jo is on her third Volkswagen. She just took her car to service to get an oil change, and she said to me, and I'm quoting, "Dad, these guys are so nice, and they took such great care of me. They made sure her car was in great shape to get her back to school." Dean Team Volkswagen of Kirkwood, the official vehicle provider of the Golf with Jay Delsing show.
Golf with Jay Delsing is presented by People's National Bank, Powers Insurance, and Pro-Am Golf. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
Are you tired of watching your golf scores go up every year? Despite new equipment and even a couple lessons, you still fight that slice or your inability to get that ball up and down out of the bunker? Well, get ready to experience better golf with Elevate Golf. At Elevate Golf, we're changing the way golfers practice with our innovative and data-driven approach to learning and, most importantly, improving. We have an array of membership options where you can find the perfect fit for your golf, your lifestyle, and your budget. Whether you start in our full-service gym, the short game area that has real sand bunker, or one of our 7 TrackMan simulator bays, the team at Elevate Golf will do a complete assessment of you and your game, which is crucial because if you don't know where you're starting from, it's nearly impossible to attain a goal or a new level. Call us today at 636-265-0557 or visit us at elevategolf.com. That's ELV, the number 8, golf.com. Contact us today and get ready to play better golf.
This is Making the Turn. Making the Turn is presented by Family Golf and Learning Center. For the kids and adults who love the game of golf, look no further than Family Golf and Learning Center. Now let's get back to Jay and Dan.
Back on Golf with Jay Delsing, coming to you from the CarShield Studios. I'm Dan McLaughlin. That's Jay Delsing, and also with us, co-author of the book that we'll get into in just a moment, Will Salisbury. The book, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. Jay, I'll start with you on this segment, but you got the foreword by Jack Nicklaus. How awesome was that?
It's a perfect example of this book. I'm like, Will's like, who we got to write? Who can we write? Get to write some of these, in forwards and the introduction and things like that. And I'm like, well, gosh, I mean, we had just had Barbara Nicklaus on the show. I'm like, why don't I start at the top? I wonder if, and so I reached out and the questions were interesting because I expected to just say, it's either going to be okay or no.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that at all. It was like, are you sure you're going to be writing a book? Are you sure? And I said, oh, we're committed. Mm-hmm. We are committed. And actually,
this is from Jack's people.
Yeah. And I work closely with Scott Tully, who's going to come on the shows. He has been Jack's guy for 25 years. And Scott and I have been friends. So Scott was the one, Danny, that got us the interview with Jack Nicklaus. This should have been in the book probably too.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, you've got 6 minutes with Jack. I said, Scott, we'll take 60 seconds with Jack if he'll come on there. So we've got Jack on the phone and we're doing this interview. And I look down at the recording and we're at like 14 minutes. And all of a sudden I look over at my phone. It's lit up. It's like, Jay, Jack's got another meeting. And I'm like, I'm not saying a word, So we asked a question about golf course design and Jack just kind of lit up, and then started talking about the Normandy project and all of these other things that these American dunes up in Michigan and things like that. And all of a sudden I look at my phone. I've got, 15 messages from Scott. He's like, I told you. And finally I said, Scott, I'm not telling Jack to be quiet. We got to let Jack go. And so we had Jack on for like 31 minutes or so, whatever that was, Danny. And, it was such a treat. And he was laughing and engaging. And I said to Scott, man, I'm sorry, but this just kind of organically happened. Yeah. And when we asked about, a piece for the book, the biggest issue that I saw from them was like, are you really going to do it? Because this is a question that gets asked a lot. He doesn't say yes very often because most of the time people don't follow through with the book. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think, we had just finished the manuscript, didn't we?
Yeah, we sent a couple chapters over. We sent everything where we had talked about Jack and told stories about the memorial, all of his different tournaments. Yeah. And I think that's what kind of did it.
Because I had known Jackie extremely well. It's part of the book. I had a ride on Air Nicklaus once. It's super. Again, what am I doing there?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of how it went.
How about the golfers, Will, that are featured in the book? I know people will be curious about that outside of Jay, but with his stories, who else is featured in the book?
It's a who's who of golf in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So if you're listening to the show, you're a hardcore golf fan. You're going to love it. So I mean, we're talking all the guys from UCLA. If you're a huge Duffy Waldorf fan, you're going to love this book. Pernice Jr., Pavin. My favorite stories I have ever heard about any sports figure ever in the history of sports are the stories about Steve Pate in this
Human
book.
Volcano.
The Human Volcano. It's just, I have read the book probably 10 times through editing, and every time I read the Steve Pate stories, I have to stop because I'm laughing out loud, literally. But the ones that like we went through, we just talked about Mr. Nicholas. So when you're writing a story about John Daly or, Steve Pate, you give a lot of time and effort to editing and make sure it's correct. But when you're writing a chapter about Jack Nicklaus, it's like, I got to research this up and down, and him, Mr. Palmer. The fact, Jay's a grown man. He's raised 4 kids. He's got a great life, a great show, and he still refers to Arnold Palmer as Mr. Palmer or the King only. And so doing chapters like that about those kind of golfers, it's like my research skills and all that came in extremely handy because those are the most important to me.
Danny, one of the things that I'm so glad you brought that up is because, my memory of years, Will's like, how many course records do you have? I'm like, I have no idea. And it turned out,
humble brag. I have how many course records do I have?
But remember, you'd be like, what year was that? I'm like, I think it was in the 80s. I could get the decade right. He did all that sort of research. Yeah. And then we had this wild incident in Los Angeles where I actually witnessed a murder, and that's in the book. And Will's like, I promise you were probably wondering, like, Delsing, you're off your rocker. Or if this did not happen.
Found an old copy of the LA Times.
We found an old copy of the LA Times, and it's right in there. So there was a lot of that had to get done.
Mm-hmm. Jay, did you feel like you needed to call some of these guys that were featured in the book and say, do you remember it like I remember it? Or, just to kind of get their approval that they were going to, because I know you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
That's not what the book is about.
We didn't really take shots at anybody other than Scott Hoke got banged up a little bit, justifiably so. And Lawrence Taylor maybe a little bit, not bad, but yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
He's the last guy on earth I want to tick off.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
We know, Danny, one thing that I didn't realize you needed to do is that if you're going to use a picture, you have to get permission. And I'll tell you a really cool story. So I wrote, there's a great picture of Arnold Palmer and I and a couple other golfers. Well, Will tell you the funny part about getting rid of the other golfers and making it look like it's just Arnold and I. But I wrote this really heartfelt letter to Amy, who is Arnold's daughter, who is married to Roy Saunders, who runs the Bay Hill Club and the tournament, and they're the parents of Sam Saunders, who played on tour for a few years and was Arnold's grandson. And I said, here's this picture. My friend and I are writing this book, and we would really love to have this picture in here, if you don't mind. And Mr. Palmer had signed it for me, customized it for me, and it was just awesome. And so she came back with the nicest, oh my gosh, thank you for asking. We would be flattered, la, la, la. And then Donald Trump comes out about a month or so later about this Arnold Palmer thing in the locker room story. And she wrote me back and said, this is the kind of stuff that just makes my family and I crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It just does such a disrespect to Dad, and that's why your letter was so, saying yes to the picture you wanted to use was so easy because look at this. And now it's an embarrassment to our family.
What did you guys learn about writing a book and just, all the different things that you have to do with copyright infringement, things of that nature that go into this? You mentioned pictures, but I can't imagine to making sure that every I is dotted, every T is crossed.
We've been over properly. This book a lot. The tenses. Trying to retell a story, Danny, that happened 25 years ago and get it in the right tense and trying to figure out how do we and staying consistent with that tense throughout the paragraph or the chapter.
Jay tells stories, you talk to him more than I do. Well, you always tell it in real time. You tell it in present tense. So I'm on the third, I'm hitting a shot, and they're like, no need to say I was on the third.
Yeah.
I'm hitting a shot, and I'm like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Because those crossed over, Danny. Well, I'm all over the place, and there's no tenses at all when I'm talking. It's like all about everything.
Did you guys have a Tiger episode in this book?
Oh, yeah.
Chapter, just a little episode, little blurb. What do you got?
There's a few, like, they're all funny. They're locker room stories, so it's not like, I was there when Tiger, this is, Jay's in the locker room with Tiger. And I'll just take it from here. Tiger Woods takes his shirt off.
Yeah. Sitting right next to him. I'm sitting right next to him, and I just look at him, I go, really, dude? And he goes, yeah, it's amazing. I've gained like 25 pounds, and my waist size is still 30. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You look like a linebacker. Put your shirt back on.
So how did he receive that?
Oh, dude, it was.
You get along with him well.
Yeah,
You're fine with him.
Yeah, well, first of all, I write him a letter every year thanking him for everything he's done because he's just raised everybody's water level so much. But, I mean, he worked his butt off, man, and he came out, and I got the tail end of my career. I got to see, a generational type talent. I mean, he just it was ridiculous. And you got to remember, guys, not one player in the history of the PGA Tour had ever touched a weight before Tiger. And now he comes out, Danny, I'm not kidding you. He's probably not even 30, and he's built like a middle linebacker from the waist up. I mean, he's still got tiny little legs, but all of a sudden he's just jacked. And I'm like, what are you going to do with all that?
And you told me, it's in the book, there's 2 PGA Tours, the one before Tiger and the one since Tiger came on.
Is there
no doubt.
You ever figured out how many hours you guys put into the book?
Oh, let's not do that.
No, a lot.
That might be a lot.
They're all fun, though. It's not work when you're having fun.
We had a blast. Well, you're easy to be with, and the stories were fun. The gosh, I mean,
we're going to get into those too.
Yeah,
we're gonna, without giving away the book.
Yeah, sure.
So let's take a quick time out. I'll throw some names at you next segment, and you tell me what comes to mind.
Okay.
All right.
Love it.
The book, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, an unforgettable memoir of golf grit and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. The foreword by Jack Nicklaus, co-authored with Will Salisbury, Jay Delsing, and you're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
Making the Turn was brought to you by Pro-Am Golf. See what Pro-Am Golf can do for you. Up next, we head to the back nine. You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
Recently, my nephew called me and said his basement had flooded and all the hardwood, carpet, and flooring had to be replaced. I told him I have the perfect place for you to go. At Jerseyville Flooring and Furniture, this second-generation family-owned business treats everyone just like their family. Jared Capps is continuing his mom and dad's 50-year business tradition where honesty, transparency, and service carry the day. My nephew loved the luxury vinyl product. Jerseyville Flooring and Furniture has the largest selection in the area. Whether you prefer Mohawk and the wide variety of their product lines, I love the Rev Wood product, by the way, or Karastan or Pergo Elements line, Jerseyville Flooring and Furniture will literally have you covered. You have pets? Let Jared tell you about the many sustainable flooring and carpet options that are pet-friendly but also easily maintained to keep your floors looking great every day. And don't forget about their huge selection of Lazy Boy recliners. They are awesome and one of the biggest selections in the Midwest. Call them today at 618-936-0536 and get your free estimate or set up a consultation with one of their experts. You can also go to jerseyvillecarpetandfurniture.net. Proud sponsor of Golf with Jay Delsing.
Hi, this is Adam Best from Family Golf and Learning Center. At FGLC here in Kirkwood, we feature a double-decker driving range, 2 large grass tees with Tahoma Bermuda grass. You want to work on your short game? We have a short game area too, which features a 20,000 square foot green, 3 bunkers, and Zoysia surrounds. Also at Family Golf and Learning Center, don't forget about our 9-hole par 3 course, the indoor TrackMan simulators, and our performance center. If you're looking for the best golf instruction, regardless of skill, we can help. Find out more at FamilyGolfOnline.com. That's FamilyGolfOnline.com. Family Golf and Learning Center. We make St. Louis better at golf.
Do you realize that the Gateway section and the over 350 men and women are here to serve you in any way they can? Whether it's running your member guest, getting the driving range prep for your next practice session, or maybe just you and your girl getting in a quick 9 and then dinner after work. The Gateway PGA professionals are here for you. I bet you didn't realize the Gateway section one of the 41 sections around this great country, has been rated in the top 3 in many of the most important categories. Your Gateway, or Greatway section, as it's affectionately known, is here for you to help you any way possible. The Gateway section of PGA Golf Professional, here to assist you with all of your golfing needs. You can visit them at gatewaypga.org and make sure you look for some of these other cool programs. PGA Reach, the PGA Junior League, or the award-winning PGA Hope program that helps our veterans. That's the Gateway PGA of America, here for you.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return.
As you know from hearing Danny and I talk about Marcone for the last 3 years, you know how philanthropic they are. Whether it's their undying support for first responders, the backstoppers, or our wonderful military heroes, Marcone is leading our community in supporting the police, fire, first responders, or the military. From Wreaths Across America to the Marcone First Responders viewing deck at the Stiefel Charity Classic, Marcone is there, making a difference in our community any way they can. That's Marcone, the largest supplier of General Electric parts in North America and proud supporter of the Golf with Jay Delsing show.
On the tee, from Sweden, Annika Sörenstam.
Hi, this is Annika, and you're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
Okay, so you've heard me talk about the best community bank in St. Louis. Yes, that's People's National Bank. With over 17 locations throughout St. Louis and their Metro East, and a staff of local St. Louisans, People's National Bank has you and your family covered for all of your banking needs. But that's not all. People's National Bank has everything you and your business could ever need. Business checking and business savings accounts? Yes. Business credit cards and employee services? Yes, you can count on those too, and much, much more. Remember this name, Jason Rantham. This local bank president is here to assist in any way possible. His personal cell is 314-974-2243. That's right. Call the bank president on his cell, and he will take great care of you. People's National Bank prescribes to the golden rule. So call Jason today and see for yourself. People's National Bank is here for you and all of your commercial banking needs. That's People's National Bank.
This is The Back Nine. The Back Nine is brought to you by Car Shield. Now let's get back to Jay and Dan.
Show rolls on. It's Golf with Jay Delsing, and the book is You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. It's written by Jay Delsing, co-authored by Will Salisbury, and the foreword by Jack Nicklaus. Guys, let's continue the conversation. So I'll throw a name out there. You tell me, Will, what comes to mind and what was written in the book without giving away too much.
Ooh, lightning round. I like this. Okay.
I'll start with the guy that did the foreword. Just, you talked about it a little bit with Jack Nicklaus, and Jay talked about the background and getting him to do it. But what comes to mind when you think of the book?
Just he's one of those guys like Stan Musial. I have never read or heard a single negative thing about him. Everyone says he's the nicest man they've ever met, like they say about Mr. Musial. So it's that my name is on the cover of a book with Jack Nicklaus. I mean, I was born at St. Louis City Hospital, right? The worst hospital in St. Louis. And now that is where my life is. So it's surreal that I'm mentioned in that same breath as Jack Nicklaus. And then so in all the research we talked about earlier, the craziest stat, this stat blows my mind. Jack Nicklaus in the 1970s played in all 40 majors. He finished in the top 10 35 times.
Wow.
That is
amazing.
Staggering. That is staggering.
And the thing, in the book, it's like his first Masters, he finished, I think, tied for 8th. In his last Masters, 36 years later, in 1996, he tied for 6th. I'm like, the man's not real. So like to have him as the forward, Jay, I mean, he's one of your idols. Like it's mind blowing.
No question. I can still remember on the 13-inch black and white TV, rabbit ears, the whole thing, watching Fuzzy Golf and watching him hit this shot. I'll never forget the shot he hit. I think it was the 1-iron he hit Danny at 17 at Pebble Beach at the U.S. Open. They hit the flagstick and fell straight down, and I'm like, that's got to be one of the best shots that's ever in the entire existence of golf. I mean, when he said yes, I remember when Will, like, I just won the lottery. I'm like, Jack said yes, Jack said yes. You know, it was like.
Oh, the only person that else knew about that. So I've had the same best friend since I was 9 years old, Dave. And I'm like, Dave, you can't tell anybody this, but Jay just got Jack Nicklaus to say it. And then he said a couple expletives. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, dude. He's like, how? I'm like, I don't know.
I know. I know.
How about Arnold Palmer? Will, what do you remember with putting that together for the chapter on Arnie in the book?
So, Mr. Palmer, just the way that he carried himself as a man, and then my favorite Arnold Palmer story is the one about, Jay, you don't wear your hat in the king's house.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
You talked about that on the show last week a little bit.
We did, yeah. It still makes me a little crazy that I was so. I mean, if I look back at it, he's teeing me up to stop, to just not do it. And I'm like, I am thinking, I'm going to win the King's tournament. I'm eating the King's food. I'm the King's friend. You know, all that. The King almost ripped my arm in half by just squeezing it.
It's like, because then we're at Norwood, the amazing Norwood Hills Country Club, Jay and I, and he walks into the clubhouse. First thing he does is take his hat off. I'm like,
oh, I take it off all the time. I took it off. You know, Danny and I go and have lunch, and we wear caps almost every dang day of our life. But that had such an impact on me as a human. And then I come to find out that so many of my friends had the exact same thing happen to them. We're just a clueless lot of kids, you know, just trying to figure it out.
You told me during the break to ask you about Scott Hoke.
Well, I didn't know who Scott Hoke was. Yeah. I just watch golf on TV. I'm not.
You did a little research.
Yeah, I did a lot of research on Scott Hoke. In 1989, they did a tour of all PGA golfers, and Scott Hoke was voted as least popular. So, Jay's story is not out of the blue. Then,
so Danny, I'm paired with Scott and Neil Lancaster, which is probably the second least favorite guy on tour. And some are like, how did you get that pair? I'm like, I'm good. I'm just staying on my side of the fairway or in the rough, wherever the hell I hit it. We'll be fine. So Danny, we're cruising along Glen Abbey, one of my favorite courses to play. The Canadian Open was there forever until it started moving around it. And I probably should have won that tournament 2 or 3 times. But anyway, on the 9th hole, and they played it like it was a national open for them. So the golf course was, long rough. It was like a U.S. Open for us. And on the 9th hole is one of the hardest holes on the golf course, kind of a narrow fairway, and a lake guards the front and the right part of the green. And Neil Lancaster and I both drive it in the rough, and it's in the right rough. Scott Hoke is in the fairway, hits his second shot on the green. Neil and my ball happened to be about 6 or 8 inches apart. And I'm walking up, and I can see one ball bright and shiny, and then the other is like, is there a ball under there? And I'm like, I wonder which one is the Delsing ball. Well, you could guess. Mine was buried. But because it was so far under the grass, I said to Neil, I'm going to make sure this is my ball. You could hit a wrong ball. It'd be a 2-shot penalty. So Neil's standing right there. I get in there, put my tee down where my ball is, look at it. Yep, Tyler, put it back. Neil hits his ball because he's got such a good lie right on the green. I have to chip my ball out 15 or 20 feet. So I chip it on the fairway, hit it on the green, make a bogey, and off we go. Now, we're headed down the 10th the next hole, and something's off in the group, more so than normal. Something's always off with these two, but something's off more than normal. And I went over to Neil. I said, Neil, what's up? And he goes, nothing, man. Just don't worry about it. I go, dude, what is going on? And he goes, Scott says you cheated on the last hole. And so all of a sudden my mind starts racing. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? I'm like, what did I do? And he goes, he said that when you identified your ball in the rough, that you gave yourself a better lie. I said, Neil, I chipped it out 15 feet. Yep. He goes, I told him he's out of his mind. You're just crazy. He didn't do that. And so I'm like, that's nuts. Okay, so we go off we go. Scott plays lousy. I'm playing well. Neil is out and La La Land. Okay, so for our next round, that was in an afternoon tee time, and there are 40, 50,000 fans there. It's awesome to play in front of there. We're out in the morning. Okay, so we get off the first, and now Neil's played so lousy that he plays 2 holes and just walks in. Says, I've had enough. Okay, so it's just Scott Hoke and I'm like, this is like playing by yourself, except with like a fence post. It's just brutal. And we're going along, and I'm having a nice tournament, and I'm right around the top 10. And we get to the 18th hole. It's a par 5. It's that famous hole that Tiger hit that crazy iron shot out of the right fairway bunker to that back right pin, made birdie to beat Grant Waite. It was one of the most famous shots. I think it was around 2000 that he did that. Well, I hit it in a bunker just short of that. And Scott Hoke's in the fairway. And, Danny, we take 4 steps off the 18th tee, and the heavens open up. I mean, not a drizzle. It is a deluge. And by the time we get to the fairway, there's rivers running down the fairway. Walking up to the fairway bunker where my ball is, and the horn goes off. Okay, so play has been suspended. Now, under suspension of play, you have to mark your ball wherever it is. So through the green, you mark your ball, and then you get off the course because that means it's also dangerous conditions, and we need to get the spectators out of the lightning. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's a big deal. So you got to make this. You got to make this snappy. So the biggest thing is making sure you know where your ball is so that when you come back under suspension, you put it right back where it was. So I'm taking yardage. My caddy's taking yardage. I go, listen, you get it off the back of the bunker. I'll get it off the sprinkler head and the front of the bunker. We'll coordinate all this to make sure we get this right. So I walk into the bunker. I got 2 tees. I put them because they're going to come in and re-rake this bunker. So I got to put them down there, but I got to be able to find them so I can put my ball back. And I do that. I'm walking out of the sand trap, kind of putting my ball in my rain jacket. I'm holding my umbrella because it's pouring down. And from the other side of the fairway, Scott Hoke comes running over and says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're cheating again." Again. And Danny, I didn't see white yet, but my head almost snapped off.
Yeah.
I was like, because you can get away with a lot of things on the PGA Tour, but if you're labeled a cheater, it's a problem.
That's a stain for the rest of your career. It is
like the big red letter. It is. Yeah. And so I'm like, I just charge after him. Now, there's my caddy, his caddy, Scott Hoke.
How tall is Scott Hoke?
Scott Hoke's, I don't know. He seemed like he was about 5'2" that day, but I'm sure he's about 6 foot tall. But anyway, and a scorer, and a young lady who's carrying our stanchion to tell us where we are. Yep. Scott's missing the cut. He's got no chance to make the cut. 1 hole left. I'm easily making the cut. I'm contending for the championship. I'm like, what? So I run over to him. Now we have 2 umbrellas up, and I'm holding this umbrella. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I can't, you're not allowed to mark your ball. And he starts going off, and he's completely wrong. And Danny, with every word that comes out of his mouth, steam is rolling out of my ear. So I grab him by the back of the neck. And because he's like, I'm going inside. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. I grab him in the back of the neck. Now the tension out there is thick. And our scorer, she's nervous. And I said, ma'am, call an official. And she looks at me. I'm like, could you please call an official? And Scott's like, I'm going inside. I'm like, dude, you're not going anywhere. So we're standing out in the middle of the fairway. Still raining. Pouring rain. And there are 2 players left on the golf course with our poor little scorer, our caddies, and the poor little girl carrying our stanchion. We get a tour official comes up. Now, because we're in Canada, the PGA Tour does this in conjunction with the Canadian PGA. So you got to see, you could get a PGA Tour guy to come out for a ruling, or you could get a CPGA Tour guy, Canadian PGA Tour guy. We get a Canadian PGA Tour official. It's just the same. He knows the same, but he's just not familiar to me because I don't. So I'm thinking, I don't know, I could break this guy's neck. I am so pissed, and I do not have a short fuse, but it's lit. And so this guy finally drives up, and Danny, he is standing in puddles of water in his cart in the middle of the fairway, and I know he has no clue what's going on. So he looks at and he kind of gets the gist because I've got Scott by the scruff of the neck, and I'm underneath his umbrella. And he goes, "What's going on here?" And I said, "Sir, would you please tell this, bleep this out, bleeper, that I am entitled to mark my ball in this fairway bunker under suspension of play?" And he goes, "What?" And I said, the horns went off, I marked my ball. He's accusing me of cheating. And he goes, "Well, of course you are."
Oh.
And I said, "Thank you." And he looks at me and I go, "Leave, please."
Yeah.
Because now I'm trying to figure out. So he leaves. I asked the lady scorer, "Would you mind just walking ahead a little bit, please?" Because I did not want her to hear what was coming next.
I bet.
And I can't say everything that I said to him, but for the main reason, Danny, he had this reputation of just being
not a great guy.
No.
Okay.
No. And I let him, I said, "I have heard ever since I got on the PGA Tour that you were this." And I said, "I have tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. But today, you left no doubt in my mind." And then I pushed him, and I'm like, "Just leave me alone." So, Danny, I go in, and now I'm upset. I'm like, "Are you just like a serial killer? What is wrong with you?" But my caddy's like, "What do you want?" I go, "Just go home. We're done for the day. Just go home. We'll figure this out." He goes, "You good?" I go, "Nope, but I'll be fine." So I decided I'm going to go up to player dining, and I'm going to just chill out. So there's a place in the corner. I was all by myself, and I had just gotten like something to drink, and I just was drinking like a Coke or something. And I've got my head down. I'm like thinking, man, what the heck just happened? And I get this tap on my shoulder, and it's Scott Hoch's dad. And I look at him, and I had met him once before in Orlando, and I said, "Hi." And I'm still, and he said, "I just want to apologize for my son. I've told him that he just needs to shut his mouth." And he didn't exactly say that in those words, but he had some other expletives. And he said, "And I just want to apologize to you." And I was dumbfounded.
I bet.
I was dumbfounded. This is the guy's dad. And then I was like, okay, well, we got to get over this. But
and 225 pages of the book, you only light up two people. Yeah. So that just kind of tells you that this wasn't, you're not a hot-tempered guy. Like I said, I run a little hot. You do not. You idle at a good 30 miles an hour probably.
So Jay has a new book. It's called You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. This is really kind of the release today on Golf with Jay Delsing. The foreword by Jack Nicklaus, Jay Delsing with co-author Will Salisbury. Now, we're talking about a lot of golfers that are in the book, but there's a lot of dignitaries, celebrities, and I know you dig into that a little bit too, Will.
Yeah, so there's, coming up the game of golf, you've played with a couple presidents, you've played with, obviously the greats of the game, but the impetus to start this book, I'm sitting in Wild Crush with Jay. We just done an event together, and we're talking about it, and he just turns around and says, "Ever tell you about the time I played golf with Sean Connery?" I'm like, "Well, now you have my attention." So he tells me, I don't want to spoil the first chapter.
This was before we ever thought about writing a book.
But he's telling me this story. It's chapter 1 of the book. The chapter's called The Name's Delsing, Jay Delsing. And he talks about Sean Connery asked him to play 9 holes, which at Bel Air, right? And he's telling me the story. He's walking through. He's like, "Yeah, then we go to the clubhouse," and he introduced me to some guy named Steven and some guy named George. And he's like, "They're George Lucas and Steven Spielberg." And I'm like, this can't be real.
It couldn't have been. I mean, again, it's like how, Danny, here's the other thing. Sean Connery carried his bag I'm 18. I've been in LA for a month. I don't even know where. I'm still trying to figure out how not to get kicked out of this unbelievable house that I live in, and like what's happening. And now he taps me on the shoulder on the putting green and says, "Young man, would you care to play 9 holes of golf with me?" And I'm like, "Sir, I'm not a member." I'm like, "I don't know what." And he goes, "No, you're with the UCLA golf team. I just asked in the pro shop. They said it's fine." Danny, I'm like a little puppy. I'm sprinting over to get my golf bag to go play golf with James Bond.
James Bond. It's just, and at that point, you got to think this is 1978, 79.
79, yeah.
He's one of the 5 most famous people on the planet at this point.
Yep.
And then there's, Jay Delsing, who 6 weeks earlier was living in North County.
It's amazing. one of the things I know that is special to your heart is your dad.
Yeah.
And there is a lot written about your dad. Will, I'll let you start. But and for people that don't know, Jim Delsing was a former Major League player, a very distinguished Major League Baseball career. But so there's athleticism in the family, but I know he writes about his dad.
Yeah, so and that was the hardest chapter to write because that's Jay's dad. We all love our dads. It's a different thing. You got to do a ton of research. And I knew he played ball. I was like, well, I'm going to go. I go to his baseball reference. And I'm like, this guy was one of the best defensive center fielders of the 1950s, just by every defensive metric. So he wasn't just a guy. He hurt his back, and that's where his career kind of topped off. So I was like, okay, so this guy is a legit Major League Baseball player. I don't know what his comp would be today. Maybe I don't know, what would you say? Probably maybe a Harrison Bader type, a little more power, a little more consistency, like an excellent defensive outfielder. And so getting that in there, getting all of that correct, getting the timelines of his career correct, when he came up, when he was traded, that was all important to me that I wanted to get right and do Jay's father justice. Like, this has to be told exactly correct because your sisters are going to read it, and I don't want you getting text messages.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Toughest part of the book for you?
Yeah, no doubt. Getting to play golf with Dad and my brother, living those things at the time, like I said earlier, you're like, Dad's just a little off, like some of the golf stories, hitting himself in the head with a ball that hits a tree in front of him, and driving the car that my brother and I are supposed to use, this old 66 Mustang, having the accelerator stick and go flying out the entrance of Norwood Hills across
Lucas and Hunt,
2 lanes of Lucas and Hunt going the wrong way, and then him deciding to throw the car into park. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, when we look back on it, I'm like, this really happened.
Yeah.
It must have just stirred so many memories and emotions for you thinking about your dad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It just seemed like an amazing, fun dad to learn about. The stories, they're heartfelt and they're hilarious. Like, Bart maybe hitting a low screamer into the back end of a Beagle.
Danny, I grew up on a muni that's a soybean field now in North County. It was North Shore Country Club, and I don't know how they got Country Club behind it, but for $200 you could play all year, every day, and we probably did. My mom would be working and traveling somewhere, so it's my dad, my brother, and I. And we'd have dinner, and then we'd go down and play 9 holes at North Shore. And we took this little, we used to call it the whiskey route, where we start on 1 and go, instead of going from 7 green to 8 tee, we go from 7 green to 17th tee and play 17 and 18 in. It brought us back to the car. It's fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's dark, dusky, and my brother's on the tee, and he's not hitting. And my dad says, get up there and hit the ball. And my brother's like, Dad, he's like, hit the ball. And he goes, there's a dog in the way. And now it's dark. And then we look out there, and maybe 120 yards, there's this poor old beagle. He is just moseying across the fairway. I mean, if we wait for him, he won't get across the fairway before dark. And my dad's like, get up and you couldn't hit this damn dog if you tried, Well, sure enough.
Smash cut.
Bart just takes this low screamer that takes one skip and hits right in the hindquarters of this beagle. The beagle yelps. I can't even take it. My dad's like, you guys are a mess. Like, how that? But my brother basically calls the shot. This is impossible to do, and then pulls it off, and my dad's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Just like, what's wrong with you guys?
Had to bring up so many emotions. Yeah. I can't imagine.
Yeah, but, it makes you, your dad's not with us anymore either, Dad. It just makes you miss them a lot. It makes you appreciate the times that you had and wish, just to be able to call. Instead of just call and say, hey, what's going on? Or just one more lunch or something like that would be, special.
As we wrap it up on this particular look at Jay's book, the reaction, Will, that you've gotten, I know some people have been able to read it, got an early copy. What's been their reaction?
They love the stories. They love that it's not just a golf book. It's these behind-the-scenes stories woven in with his life, which is an amazing life, which and they laugh a lot, and they just, you've heard from your buddies you sent it to, you're going to laugh a lot. You're going to learn stuff you didn't learn, that you didn't know. And it's all been positive.
Yeah, same. My sisters had some questions just about like, I didn't realize you saw it like that. I'm like, well, That's kind of, when you start off the game as a caddy, it's just different. And back then, Danny, you go over to Norwood as a caddy, and there's 45 caddies every day. I mean, more people took caddies than took golf carts back when we started. And now it's 2 or 3% of the people that play. And so, but you got to remember, there were 40, 50-year-old men in the caddy room when you're 12 and 13. It's an eye-opener.
What would you like to say to Will?
Oh,
thank you.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, thank you. No, tremendous. Thank you. The fact that all of the reasons that you were telling me about were true. I really enjoyed it. You're one of my dearest friends now, but just getting those things on paper, it's really fun. I'm really pleasantly surprised because I still had my doubts.
Yeah. Will, best way to get the book. So this is kind of our official launch, if you will. I know some people have been able to get a copy or two, but the best way to get the book is how to do it.
Go to jdelsinggolf.com. There's a page on there. You click through to pre-order and order on Mascot Books. You have unlimited early access to the book. It's not officially out, but if you order through this particular link, you'll get it sent to you. And
Mascot Books is the way to go now. It'll eventually be on Amazon and some of these others, but Mascot Books is the way to go. And they were actually been great to work with.
Awesome publishing house.
Yeah.
You going to sign a few too?
Sure. Look, I think we're selling them for $28, and with my signature, they go for $27.50.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Jay, great stuff. Will, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. This has been great.
So again, the book, You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour, the foreword by Jack Nicklaus, and the authors are Jay Delsing and Will Salisbury. Back with more on Golf with Jay Delsing in just a moment.
That was the Back Nine, presented by Elevate Golf. Get your golf game in shape with Elevate Golf.
The game of golf is booming in popularity. All of our measurables are at or near all-time record levels. Remember this name for any and all of your golf needs. It's Pro-Am Golf. You need lessons? Tom DeGrand continues to provide our area with top-level instructions. His 40-plus years of experience matter. What about a golf gift for that someone special in your life? Maybe it's shoes, clothing, or golf's latest tech. Yes, sir, Pro-Am Golf has you covered. This family-owned and operated business has been serving our community for the last 45-plus years. You can visit Pro-Am Golf at proamgolfusa.com or do like I do. Go over to the Brentwood location and meet the DeGrands yourself. You won't be disappointed. Pro-Am Golf for all your golf needs, or check out proamgolfusa.com.
This is Adam Betts from Family Golf and Learning Center located in Kirkwood. Our motto is play your best golf. We have the best instruction for every skill level. 2 female instructors along with our 8 PGA instructors. We're there for the kids and the adults who are starting to play and trying to refine their game. Family Golf and Learning Center features a double-decker driving range, grass tees, and a short game area, along with indoor simulators and a performance center. That's not all. Don't forget about our Back Nine Bar and Grill. Find out how we can help you and your family. Head to familygolfonline.com. That's familygolfonline.com. It's Family Golf and Learning Center, where we make St. Louis better at golf.
A professional golfer, as you watch on TV every Sunday afternoon, never ventures onto the course without his trusted caddy. This was true for me for my entire career. I want you to think of Powers Insurance as your insurance caddy that you never had. Just as my golf caddy helped me to assess risk on the golf course, Powers Insurance can do the same for you in your busy and complicated life. Tim Davis, COO at Powers Insurance, did exactly that for me and saved me over 50% on one of my coverages. A good insurance risk advisor can help you know when to take a chance or when it may be smarter to take a little more club. Give the folks at Powers Insurance a call and get a caddy for all of your insurance needs. Call them at 314-725-1414. That's 314-725-1414. That's Powers Insurance.
For the best in Italian cuisine in St. Louis, look no further than Paul Manno's, located in Chesterfield. It's traditional Italian cooking, and their best ingredient, it's their tradition. It's cooking like Paul's grandmother used to make and like his mother still prepares today. There are no corners cut at Paul Manno's. From greeting you at the door to the pasta you'll share with your family, Paul Manno's is committed to bringing you their very best anytime you share a meal at their place. It's Paul Manno's, located in Chesterfield.
This is Jay Delsing, author of the new golf book, You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You. It's the perfect gift just in time for Father's Day. It's an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. Get your copy today at jdelsinggolf.com or mascotbooks.com.
Back with the author, Jay Delsing. I'm Dan McLaughlin. Again, Jay, congratulations on the book. If you're wondering, once again, how you can get the book, jdelsinggolf.com, Mascot Books as well. You wouldn't believe me if I told you an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. We did a lot of talking there about Jack Nicklaus. I do want to ask you, though, about David Feherty. You spoke with him for the book, and he mentioned a lot about some of the experiences you guys had. He is hilarious, and he writes a fun little passage in the book, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really does. It's David writes the introduction, I guess, and it's just hysterical. The way that we wrote the book, whenever we would introduce a celebrity or someone, we would give some of his vitals, like how tall, how much they weighed, their net worth, things like that. So Feherty starts his introduction with David Feherty from Dublin, Ohio, 175 pounds, born with one buttock. And I'm like, and so, Danny, what's interesting about this book is that, and I guess as it was unfolding to me, I knew this somewhat inherently, but didn't really think about it. All of these situations should happen with the exception of one person being in the room, and that's me. There's with Sean Connery, and getting to play golf with him, what a treat. And then walking through the Bel Air Country Club men's locker room, going to the grill to have a drink with this guy when I'm 18 years old, and him stopping to introduce me to two fellows, one named Steve and one named George. I'm so enamored with Sean Connery and the experience I just had on the golf course, and now I get to go sit down and have a drink with him when I'm underage, and I can't wait. And he introduces me to two people that I'm blinded. I don't care. I'm like, nice to meet you, sirs, and off we go. And then he stops and tells me that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. But honestly, Danny, that meant nothing to me.
Yeah, I
was like, okay. And then, but what's kind of fun about that, you like Steven Spielberg net worth $4.9 billion, George Lucas net worth, and you're like, it's just kind of crazy. But that's all, it goes back to golf. I mean, it's every single story is another tribute to the game that just brings people together and does amazing things.
So this is really our official release of the book, but some people have gotten an early copy, family, friends, that kind of thing. What's been their reaction so far? It's been pretty good, hasn't it?
Pretty good so far. Yeah, I think people are surprised. To put all the stories, there's a wide variety of stories. We talk at one point about I witnessed a murder in Los Angeles when I was about 20 years old, which is unbelievable. When Will and I are doing this, we're putting this together, and I said, "Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this." He's like, "Do you have any stories you forgot about?" I go, "Yeah, I was walking with Mickey Okoye, who I think I was a freshman and he was a junior, whatever it was." And we're going to hit balls at Los Angeles Country Club, and I hear this pop, 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 pop. We turn the corner, Danny, we're on foot, and I see this black car run into this eucalyptus tree, and the door flies open, and this guy has got bullet holes all over him. Blood. It was a black Lincoln sedan, and it was at Wilshire Boulevard, and I forget the cross street, but it's right there by Los Angeles Country Club, and this guy's dead in the car, and I was like, what the heck's going on, man? And it turns out that we did the research, and it was a Turkish consulate that was killed, and some other wild group took credit for it. But I mean,
so you have wild stories in this.
I played golf with Lawrence Taylor at Pebble Beach, and we call that 3 terrifying days at Pebble Beach, because Lawrence just had that personality. I thought he could just tear people limb from limb, and thought he might,
Well, by the way, you don't have to think about it. He could.
Yeah, he could. Yeah.
Right.
Danny, big man.
Yeah.
Just a huge man. I mean, I almost got into a fight with Scott Hoke at Glen Abbey, which we touched on, and which is, as I look back on it, it's pretty funny story. Yeah. And then it just kind of goes on and on. There's Justin Timberlake story in there, just destroyed my daughters. They're like, I mean, I'd never heard of this kid, and I didn't know who he was. And, my caddy says, "Oh, so you're friends with Justin Timberlake?" I'm like, "Who's that?" So there's a lot of fun in there that we just keep going. And then you have, several chapters dedicated to Arnold Palmer and, Jack Nicklaus, and yeah, man, I don't know. It's like, what am I doing with these guys?
That's awesome. JayDelsingGolf.com, and Mascot Books is where you want to find it. Also, at the Missouri Athletic Club, coming up, you're going to have a party, so to speak, and that'll be a release of the book as well, but a get-together, Q&A, that kind of thing coming up.
First of all, we got to give a massive shout-out to the MAC, and I know they're going to be our tip of the cap today, but we love my MAC. I don't know what you call your MAC.
My MAC, that's right.
We love my MAC, but do you think they're getting sick of us yet?
Oh, yeah, because we're there every day.
Have to be.
That's okay.
They look at us like, did you change clothes?
That's the idea, though.
Is that what yeah, but we just love it. So on April 12th, Augusta Saturday, Will Salisbury and I, and I think you might be there, we're gonna do a little discussion and just talk about the book a little bit, maybe sign a few copies, and just kind of get together, have a couple of drinks, and just talk about the book a little bit.
And that's our tip of the cap, the MAC.
Yeah, we brought the tip of the cap is brought to you by the Dean Team Volkswagen of Kirkwood, 314-966-0303. Guys, Colin and Brandy Burnt, go by. Hey, if you're not doing anything else, just tell them Jay said I wanted to go by and say hello. They are great people. They're there 24/7. Whenever that place is open, they are there. And they sponsor the tip of the cap, which I really appreciate. And Danny, we're tipping our cap to the MAC. D, you and I have traveled all over the world, all over the country, more so. And you go to places like Detroit, and you go to places like New York, and some of these places have these city clubs named after the town. And the Missouri Athletic Club is one of the, if not the most iconic. It's one of the most iconic in the country. And it's what makes it so special is that it's got the downtown facility and it's got the West County facility. And the West County facility is younger, but if you go downtown, we went down there, Danny, when the MAC was hosting the 25-year anniversary for the Super Bowl that the Rams won. And both of us marveled, like, you don't see rooms like this anymore, D. You don't see stairways that are, have this ornate sort of hand-carved wood, and there's not many places you can still go and smoke a real cigar inside. You can do that at the MAC downtown. So we love the MAC. We wear their buffet out. We wear their people out. The Janet is just super, super kind to us, and she just got me my locker the other day, and so we give her a shout-out. But the MAC is great, and that's the tip of the cap. Brought to you by Dean Team Volkswagen of Kirkwood, 314-966-0303. Call them today. They'll help you out with any sort of vehicle.
As we like to do, we go through some of the news and notes of the week on the PGA Tour. I wanted to get your reaction to this. Matthew Fitzpatrick split from his caddy, Billy Foster, after 6 years. It's not uncommon to see this happen, and it's not to say that they're not good friends still, but this is something that happens on the PGA Tour.
It does, Danny, and look at, when is the last time you've seen Matthew Fitzpatrick's name up on the leaderboard? This is what it's about. The relation, this is the first thing that when you go to your swing coach and you go to your putting coach, you get your team around, and nothing else is, this is the next domino to fall. Okay, to mix something up, to give you some, and Billy Foster has got one hell of a resume. I mean, winning the U.S. Open with Matthew at Brookline a couple years ago was phenomenal. He's been on the bag for some great players on the European tour. And so he has got nothing to be ashamed of. I think it's just, Danny, if you're out there and you play long enough, you're probably got to split from your caddy somewhere along the line. There are a few guys that have not, but not many.
Lee Trevino is such a character of the game, and he was interviewed before the Players' Championship, and they asked him about Scotty Scheffler. He said, I just don't understand it. Experimenting with the grip on his putter. He said, this guy wins every single weekend, it seems like. And he said, quote, it scares him what he's doing with his putter. I found that really interesting from one of the greats of the game.
Well, I mean, he's not in Scotty's head. He's not working with Scotty every day. We had the great Randy Smith on this show, and they talk about how hard he works. I mean, Danny, he's obviously not happy with that part of his game. And look, we documented it well last year. He won plenty of tournaments not putting well. I mean, putting very, very mediocrely. I mean, Danny, in the Houston Open, I think the Houston Open last year, he finished one shot out of a playoff and finished dead last in the field in putting. So, I mean, Lee could say what he wants, and I get it. But if there's a weak link in Scotty's game, especially right now, it's with the putter.
Let's talk about Scotty and his Masters. You ready?
I'm ready. The menu?
Yes,
sir.
All right. The appetizers are cheeseburger sliders, firecracker shrimp, Papa Chef's meatball and ravioli bites. The first course, Texas-style chili. The main course, you have wood-fired cowboy ribeye or blackened redfish. The dessert, warm chocolate chip skillet cookie. So you're gonna eat that, and I'm not sure you're gonna be able to move around Augusta the next day. That's a lot.
That's meat and potatoes right there.
Sure is.
I got to tell you, a little chocolate skillet.
That sounds pretty
chocolate
good.
Chip skillet cookie. I could start the meal with that. I cheeseburger slider as an appetizer, man. Let's get some meat in here.
Right.
We got meatballs. How the hell I got to ask you this? How the hell did redfish get on that menu?
I'm not sure. Maybe just trying to mix in a little meat and fish.
Is that a typo or what?
Right.
Wow.
I thought it's cool. I think it's so cool when the past champion the year before gets to set the menu at the champions dinner. It's an awesome tradition.
Oh, I think it is. Danny, how amazing would it be to go to a champions dinner?
Oh, to be a fly on the wall and what is said inside there?
And first of all, it means you won the Masters.
That's right. That's number one.
Man, I wonder who sits next to Phil Mickelson? John Rahm?
Yeah, maybe you put the live guys together. Remember what Tom Watson did last year in getting up and speaking and talking about for the betterment of the game, gentlemen, we need to come together and make this thing happen. Yeah. He admonished some of the players out there, too.
He sure did. Well, that's Tom. Tom he does that sort of thing. And, his heart's in the right place. I mean, he wants golf to be united. And Danny, I don't know, man. I'm thinking that these contracts are starting to end. We know that this is a crucial year, 4 years. What are we going to do with Phil Mickelson? What are we going to do with some of these guys? And then I'm just wondering if the tour's just going to punish him. And, Liv, I don't know. Do you think Liv continues? I mean, we know they can afford it.
So the ratings came out with the now, you mentioned it earlier. It was 8 o'clock for the playoff of the Players' Championship, 8 o'clock in the morning.
On a Monday.
Right. And the ratings were outstanding.
Yeah.
The PGA Tour was thrilled with what they got, and it just buried what's happening on Live. And so, to your point, there's a real problem going on with Live, and they've gone to Fox. They're trying to make it more mainstream, and they're just not getting the ratings that they thought they might.
Danny, I think people are just tired of it. I think they're kind of pissed. I think they're kind of over it. I know you and I are over it. Look, I'll watch Bryson DeChambeau do anything. I love the guy. I absolutely love him. But I'm like, I could barely remember what John Rahm looks like. I mean, he's not playing particularly well over there. And does it matter over there? I mean, you've got 48 guys and there's no cut and it's 3 rounds.
Right.
And they've already been paid.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does it matter?
I don't think it appeals to the golf fan, but we'll see if some of these guys.
And I know we
jump.
still watch. It's still,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still really, really, really good golf. But what's happened to Cameron Smith?
Not even on the radar right now.
I know. And, I mean, I can't wait for the Masters for a lot of reasons, but, you want to see these guys. I mean, Patrick Reed's just kind of fallen off into oblivion as well. And, I mean, he's one of these guys that, whether you like him or dislike him, he was always entertaining. I mean, he always brought something to the table that you'd go, wow, what did you do? Or what'd you say? And he's a world-class player. I mean, so, Danny, who is of the live guys, who would be your favorite? Is it
Mickelson?
Mickelson?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know that.
Yeah, that's a stupid question. I should have known that. So
love the villain.
I would rank them as in terms of his importance. I would say DeChambeau,
yeah,
and then I would say Koepka, and then I would say Rahm, and then and if you'd asked me this last year, I'd have put Rahm up there, probably even first.
Oh, he definitely would have been
before
first
DeChambeau won his second major. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't see this. I don't see the unifying stuff coming together. I think they're gonna punish these guys.
We're going to give away some golf balls coming up. Stay tuned for that. You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing.
We're heading into the clubhouse, and it's time to go into the mailbag. Tips from a PGA Tour player are coming up. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
Hey, this is Jay Delsing for SSM Health Physical Therapy. Our golf program has the same screening techniques and technology as the pros on the PGA Tour use. SSM Health Physical Therapy has the Titleist Performance Institute trained physical therapists that can perform the TPI screening on you, as well as use the K-Vest 3D motion capture system. Proper posture, alignment, etc. can help you keep your game right down the middle. We have 80 locations in the St. Louis area. Call 800-518-1626 or visit them on the web at ssmphysicaltherapy.com. Your therapy, our passion.
Golf with Jay Delsing is presented by Family Golf and Learning Center, Jerseyville Carpet and Furniture, the Gateway section of the PGA, and Marcone. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
I want to thank Whitmore Country Club for rejoining the Golf with Jay Delsing show. You may recall Whitmore and our good buddy Bummer, alongside top shelf director of golf Brian Main, were one of the very first sponsors of our show almost 7 years ago. So welcome back, my friends. We love having you. Whitmore Country Club is one of only 3 country clubs in the area with 36 holes of championship golf to offer its members. And golf is not the only thing Whitmore Country Club has to offer. Got a great pool, tennis courts, or you can enjoy fabulous meals at their many dining options. I'm thrilled to tell you Whitmore has announced the first Annika Women's All-Pro Tour event scheduled this June 18th through 22nd. The St. Louis Women's Championship will help benefit PGA Reach, the Backstoppers, and Our Ladies Inn. To find out more about the tournament, visit AnnikaTourSTL.com. That's AnnikaTourSTL.com. To find more out about Whitmore Country Club, call 636-926-0185. That's 636-926-0185, or visit them on the web at whitmorecc.com.
Hi, I'm Adam Betts, PGA professional and owner at Family Golf and Learning Center. We welcome golfers of all ages and abilities, from the junior golfer to the experienced players. From our indoor TrackMan simulators, large short game area, grass tees, and driving range bays, to our golf instruction, leagues, clinics, and camps, we connect you with every resource to reach your golfing goals. We look forward to helping you improve your golf game at Family Golf and Learning Center, where we make St. Louis better at golf. Visit us at familygolfonline.com. That's familygolfonline.com.
Help me welcome M&M Golf Carts to the Golf with Jay Delsing show. The Miller family has owned this business since 1978, and they are your local and authorized club car dealer. 80% of all of their parts are sourced in the United States and 100% assembled in Augusta, Georgia. Club Car is an iconic American brand. M&M Golf Cars will now be the presenting sponsor of the Golf with Jay Delsing Charity Spotlight. Remember their slogan, you are right on par in your M&M golf car. You can find out more at mmgolfcars.com. That's mmgolfcars.com.
You're listening to Golf with Jay Delsing, brought to you by Car Shield. It features top guests, tips from a PGA Tour player, and the latest news and notes from around the world of golf. This is Golf with Jay Delsing.
Back on Golf with Jay Delsing with the author, as I mentioned, as he has co-authored a book with Will Salisbury. You can get that book. We've had some emails and texts come in, jdelsinggolf.com and Mascot Books. You wouldn't believe me if I told you an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. As we do every week, Jay, we also get a lot of people that want golf balls, and they can do that on Golf with Jay Delsing.
Danny, you got to have golf balls. I don't care what. You can't play this game without it, folks. Jay at jdelsinggolf.com. Man, the demand and the interest has really, really gotten up there. Guys, we've got these tailor-made golf balls. They're the urethane golf ball. They've got this tour technology for easy alignment on there. Send me an email. We're going to draw at the end of this month. We just gave away last month's dozen to 4 guys, and they were jacked up about them, and I told them, I don't think they go straight.
I bet they're real happy to hear that.
I don't think they do, but hopefully they do. They don't go straight. If they, Danny, honest to God, if someone told me, hey, man, this is a special dozen, I wouldn't give it away.
No, you'd keep that in your bag.
Exactly. I'd wait for a tournament. I'm like, I got special golf balls. I'm going to use them right now. Of course, I know they couldn't do that, but I'd still keep them for myself.
So the best
is
way
that bad?
No, it's not. The best way to sign up for the free golf balls is
Jay at jdelsinggolf.com, and you can spell Jay on both sides of that.
As we head down the stretch on the show, the Valspar Championship is wrapping up today. What should I be looking for as I watch on television?
Danny, the last 3-4 holes, they call it the snake pit. It's where the championship is decided nearly every single year. The golf course that's in Tampa, it's Innisbrook Resort. It is called the Copperhead, and it is a difficult golf course. There are some really, really tight, demanding par 4s that you got to put the ball in the fairway to have a chance to get them close to the hole. 16 has got water all the way down the right side, Danny. It's a narrow fairway with woods and stuff on the left, and you can miss the water, but put it in the woods, and you're not going to get it on the green in 2, and you're probably not going to make many pars. And then the 17th hole is a 225 or 230-yard uphill par 3. But the green is it's just not that easy to hit. And then 18 is an uphill, kind of narrowish par 4 that, the championship is decided on these 3 or 4 holes. The 15th is not a long par 3, but it's just awkward. A lot of the holes, Danny, sit at you at kind of peculiar angles. And so when you're really, really on your game, it probably doesn't matter quite as much. But, boy, if there's any sort of indecision or any sort of fear or uncertainty, that golf course just pounds you. I don't know why, but I played it probably 40 or 50 times. I've had some really good rounds on it, and I've had some stinkers. I've got a little bit of both.
So how challenging, when you think about the last 4 holes, and there's always signature holes with every course.
Absolutely.
So how challenging is this last 4? Where would you put it in terms of some of the other stops on the PGA Tour?
Okay, so now when we go down and we play down in Charlotte at, oh my gosh, I'm having a senior moment, but I'll think of it. But they call their last 3 holes there the Green Mile. And that's where Rory McIlroy won his PGA. He won, we played the Wells Fargo Championship and the Wachovia, and I'm still drawing a blank on it. But Danny, these last 3 holes and 4 holes at Innisbrook at the Copperhead, they don't need to take a back seat to anyone. They are extremely difficult. Now, are they as hard as 17 and 18 at the Players Championship? They're not, but they are really, really difficult, and it's just. You've got to stand up there. You got to trust your game, and you got to pull off the shots. And it's really interesting when you start looking at the most difficult holes on the PGA Tour and how sometimes they run together. And there's the way they do it, D, is how do they relate to being over par?
Right.
So if it's a par 3 and they average 3.9 strokes around, that's nearly everybody, is a stroke over par every time they play that hole.
Okay, couple quick emails before we wrap up the show. We always do a little tip segment on Golf with Jay Delsing, and you can email jay@jdelsinggolf.com. I hate saying this word. I hate it. Yips, but we do get a question about eliminating putting and chipping yips. Is there something, Jay, anything you can do to try to eliminate that?
Well, typically speaking,
hate saying that word.
I know. Typically speaking, the reason that we yip is because our alignment is off. And Danny, when you're a young kid, and let's say you're a right-handed golfer and you line your putt up and you're a little open to where you want the ball to go, you'll just kind of put you'll open right at impact and you'll open the blade a little bit to make it go in. A lot of young golfers do that. What winds up happening is once this thing kind of gets in your brain and you're you got just a ton of fear that's come over you about making or missing these putts, you got a problem. So when I was putting really, really poorly, probably the worst I'd ever putted, and I've had the yips before, but worse than that, I putted with my eyes closed. And I putted with my eyes closed on the PGA Tour for about almost 10 months.
Did you really?
And I had some of the best putting days I've ever had. It was crazy. It was scary as hell. When and it was, terrifying the first time. I'm like, I'm not even going to hit the ball. And then the putt went in.
Yeah.
So you work your way into it, but it's really about aim. So it's a couple things. Aim, and then watch your grip pressure. Oftentimes with the yips, Danny, comes an extreme amount of tension in your hands. And you've got to be soft and supple, and you've got to work on some of the fundamentals. Orange Whip, an Orange Whip trainer, has a great putting aid. Our dear friend Stan Utley, we're working on a deal to try to get Stan on the show with Orange Whip. They've got a really great putting aid. So go to orangewhiptrainer.com and check out their putting aid. It can help you with the yips, for sure. It absolutely can.
We have almost run out of time, about 30 seconds. Rusty wedges, does it add spin?
No, it does not. I love all my wedges. As you see, they look like they're 300 years old. When I was with Titleist and Bob Vokey, I would say, I don't want the chrome. I don't want them bright and shiny. You've been into my house. I don't like a lot of bright and shiny things. I like rusty, and look at me. I'm rusty. That's what this is what this looks like. But so it does not add any spin. But I just like the look of it, and I don't know. That was for me.
The book, again, you wouldn't believe me if I told you, an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. You can get that book at jdelsinggolf.com and Mascot Books. Jay, great show. Again, congratulations on the book.
Yeah, Danny, I love. Well, thank you. It's going to be fun. Hope people enjoy reading it, and hit them straight, St. Louis. Are you driving an out-of-warranty car? It's only a matter of time before your out-of-warranty vehicle is in the shop costing you thousands of dollars. Auto repair costs are up nearly 20% from last year, which is 4 times the rate of inflation. If an unexpected breakdown happened today, would you be ready for that? Well, now you can be with a plan through CarShield. Even if your car is just over 3 years old, it's still prone to expensive costs. Your car is more than just getting you from point A to point B. Traveling by car is a way of life. From picking up your kids to going to a new restaurant, cars are a daily essential. When you enroll in a car protection plan through CarShield, you can look forward to the following. The price will never go up no matter how many claims you file, or no matter how high the mileage on your car increases. CarShield offers protection plans that start as low as $100 per month. That's $100 per month. They have repair coverage for up to 5,000 different parts of your vehicle. Plus, when your car breaks down and you're stuck on the side of the road, you get 24/7 coast-to-coast roadside assistance. You also get complimentary towing and rental car options. CarShield has my back when my car breaks down, and they can have yours too. Call CarShield today at 800-465-6550 or visit carshield.com. It's CarShield, proud sponsor of the Golf with Jay Delsing show.
Family Golf and Learning Center. No matter your age or skill level, Family Golf and Learning Center, located in Kirkwood, has something for you. They've got it all. PGA and LPGA instruction, double-decker driving range, par 3 golf course, TrackMan simulators, a large short game green design to help you with all your shots around the green, bunkers, rough, and Zoysia fairway pitching. And now open the Tahoma Bermuda Grass Tees, the best turf to hit from in St. Louis. It's all at Family Golf and Learning Center. To schedule a lesson or to find out more, visit FamilyGolfOnline.com. That's FamilyGolfOnline.com. Family Golf and Learning Center. We make St. Louis better at golf.
This is Jay Delsing, author of the new golf book, You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You. It's an unforgettable memoir of golf, grit, and a blue-collar kid on the PGA Tour. Get yours at jdelsinggolf.com. That's jdelsinggolf.com.